Shana Tova. I was talking to a friend once, and they were like, so tell me, like, how does the sausage get made? What does it really take to run a synagogue? And by the time I had described the various committee meetings, the professional, the lay hours that go into making something like the High Holy Days during a new wave of a pandemic occur, I think they were asleep. It is an incredible endeavor to make a synagogue like this function and exist. And in 2021, I think more than ever, we are required to ask ourselves, why? Why does this place deserve our time, our energy, and our resources? Even more than that, we live in a moment unparalleled in Jewish history, where if we wanted, we could do whatever we want. We could spend all of our time at country clubs that once had rules of not allowing Jews. We could join all of the various local baseball, basketball, kickball, whatever you like. Name a thing, and there's a group of people doing it that would be happy to have you and your family be a part of it. So what do we as a Jewish people, and even more specifically us as the Woodbury Jewish Center, have to offer? What do we make it so that we can be the top of each of our priority list? And even more so, in the last 18 months, as we've suffered through this pandemic, and so many of us have been trapped in home and had our whole lives turned upside down, if you've had a moment to breathe, one of the things you're likely asking yourself, or at least I've been asking myself, is what am I doing with my life? What matters? What is important? As all of the things that were part of our daily routine were stripped away, the great pause, some have called it, we have to ask ourselves, what is important enough to be worth our time? And this moment in time, this wildly full of possibility, this transition is not the first time we Jews have been at this moment. 2,000 years ago, the nature of Judaism changed almost overnight. For 1,000 years, this, as we know it, synagogue life didn't exist. The way we were Jewish was we had the temple. Not a temple, the temple. One place in Jerusalem where you came to a priest, someone who our tradition said was closer to God. And you brought them your animal, you brought them your incense, your frankincense, the oil, the meal offerings, and you offered sacrifices. And the priest did that for you on the altar. You watched the smoke go up, and when it did, you knew God had heard your prayers. 3 times a year, every Jew in the world came to Jerusalem. That was how we did Jewish. Then, in the year 70 CE, almost overnight, the Romans breached the walls of Jerusalem and destroyed that temple. The closest parallel I can give you would be if you woke up tomorrow morning on the second day of Rosh Hashanah and every synagogue in North America no longer existed. How would you be Jewish? Would you be Jewish? What would you spend your time doing in order to be Jewish? These were the questions our ancestors asked. And in fact, this is the moment where rabbis appeared on the scene. Before then, perhaps there were small groups of people studying together, forming learning groups together, but they had no prominence. They were not important in the Jewish world. But they arrived on the scene and they offered a solution, a way to be Jewish. They took 3 ideas and gave them as new things in place of the temple. The Beit Knesset, the house of prayer, the Beit Midrash, the house of study, and the Bayit, the home. Each of these, they said, are a new place, a place where you can be Jewish, where you can do your Jewish things. And I think in this moment, as we ask ourselves, why be Jewish? We can use these 3 models again, and we, especially here at Woodbury Jewish Center, can use them again to be the kind of synagogue that answers that question obviously. First, the Beit Midrash, the house of study. For 30 plus years, this has been a place of great learning. There have been outstanding speakers who have come through in person before the last year and virtually in the last year. The Cantor has taught classes. I have taught classes. Many, if not all of you, at some point have had this be a place where you have learned. And yet, I wonder if we could be more. For instance, I'll be starting a class in October, a monthly class called Back to Basics, which is to say that there are aspects of our Judaism that we know about, that we've heard about, that are parts of our zeitgeist as we think about Judaism, but have a meaning underneath it, a deeper understanding. And for 45 minutes, I'll teach, and for 45 minutes, we'll gather in a small group, first virtually, to ask ourselves, what does it mean to us? I'll give you an example of what I mean. Just a little while ago, some schmo blew the shofar. He did okay. The shofar is this moment where everyone is silent, where it doesn't matter your age or your stage, where everyone comes together and sees this thing and hears this sound. It's awesome. But did you know that Maimonides also tells us that when we hear the blast of the shofar, it's supposed to awaken an individual prayer in your heart? Did you know that if there is a hole in another part of the shofar, it's not kosher anymore, because then it could be a trumpet or a flute and make different kinds of sounds. The entire purpose is that we hear one note all together. And the Kabbalists teach us that it's not an accident the way the sounds are formed. First one blast, then 3 broken blasts, then 9 shattered ones, and finally one long reunited blast. It's a model for us on how to approach these high holy days. We come in with confidence and whole. But when we examine our year, we first notice all of the things that we did wrong, the things where we didn't live up, and our blast breaks into 3. Then we begin to imagine what would have happened if we had done better, and our heart shatters even more. But if we participate in these high holy days, if we reach out to our loved ones, if we seek to do better, then we come back even stronger. We return with one long blast. Each of our Jewish practices have their surface level chance to be together, but also something deeper, some way of connecting. The Beit Knesset. Oh, is this a house of prayer? Listen this morning as you heard Avinu Malkeinu, or just a moment ago we sang Ledor Vador with such passion and excitement. We are a place that comes together, and I wonder what we could do more. The rabbis, when they were forming this thing called prayer, before we only had those sacrifices, but now we're going to say we're going to come together and pray 3 times a day. They gave us 2 models. It's called Kavanah Latzet and Kavanah for personal meeting. Kavanah Latzet is the idea that we have to come together with the purpose of fulfilling our responsibility to pray. And Kavanah for personal meaning is about what we as individuals get. Now, at first glance, Kavanah Latzet, this idea of coming because we have to, is frankly boring and uninteresting. But I'm willing to bet if I polled the room, we'd find a lot of people here because they think it's what they're supposed to do. We're here because we want our parents to be proud of us, because we want our grandkids to have a role model, and everything in between. We're here because we feel like we're supposed to be here, and that is a great thing, and it's what the rabbis had in mind. But COVID aside, I wonder how many others could be here. I wonder how many others, if we invited them, if we brought them together, if we modeled for them, coming one more time ourselves, what would it look like if everyone joined one extra Saturday morning, one other Friday night, one more weekday minyan? What would our prayers look like? And then Kavanah for personal meaning. You know, the Machzor and the Siddur during not the high holidays, we look to for our prayers, frankly, is a bit of a brick. It's hard to engage. It's hard to penetrate. It's hard to find an individual, a personal meaning when there are so many prayers, and it's even in a foreign language. Now, I know lots of people who have a regular yoga practice or soul cycle, or now it's, I don't know how to pronounce that word, Peloton, whatever. And I have deep respect for the way they find individual meaning each day. And I can tell you that this book, this prayer book of ours, if you can unlock its secrets, it'll kick yoga's tush any day of the week. In it is the stories we tell ourselves to make ourselves a kinder person, a more loving person. Again, I'm starting a project. It's on the website now. I'm calling it the Word of the Week. One of the biggest barriers to getting into the meat of our prayer book is that most of us do not speak Hebrew. It's certainly not well enough to decode the poetry that is our prayer book. So each week, I will share a Hebrew word that is common in our prayer book and share some of the deep meanings that go with it. I will give you an example. Baruch. This word we hear over and over again. Baruch atah Hashem, Baruch atah Hashem. I'd even be willing to bet if I polled the room, most of you would know that it means blessed. But putting even aside what on earth the word blessed might mean, you may not know that the word Baruch has in it, because the way Hebrew works, the idea of the word birkayim and the word brecha. Birkayim means knees and brecha means pool. So it's not just a blessedness that we might feel on a regular day. The idea of the word knees is that we bow when we say the word Baruch because it is a blessing of connection to something we feel respect for. And brecha of pool, that blessing, is a wellspring. It sustains us. It fills us up. And each time we say those words, those layered meanings are hiding there, waiting for us to connect to them. So each week I'll add a new word, and I hope that they will give you an anchor as you turn page by page in the Siddur, a chance to connect with an idea, a concept. Oh, the bayit, the home. The place where we've all spent the last 18 months wondering what it's like on the outside world. I'm willing to bet if I visited each of your homes, we would find the feel of Judaism. There would be a Jewish book that was a bar mitzvah present on the shelf. There would be a menorah made in Jill Donchek's second grade class. A mezuzah on the door. Our homes are places full of Jewish texture, and I wonder, is there a way they could be more? Because this is perhaps the rabbi's greatest invention. It's something for 1,000 years we as Jews maybe didn't understand. But we said, you don't have to even go to the Beit Knesset. You don't have to go to the Beit Midrash. In your own home, you can live out your Judaism. You can express it. Many of you may light Shabbat candles on occasion. I wonder if there is space for Havdalah, the end of Shabbat with the beautiful braided candle, the scent of a new week, and the taste of some wine. For many of us, it's not hard to find the red wine. I wonder what would it look like. We've adopted a practice in our daily minyan called the Ki Leolam Chasto. It's a phrase in Hebrew from the Psalms that means, may God's love continue to last forever. To begin each day by just saying one thing we feel grateful for, that we feel blessed about, and thanking God for it. Saying, Ki leolam chasto. May that blessing continue forever. These are my 4th High Holy Days at Woodbury Jewish Center. Although sometimes I think last year counts for only a half. And I am enormously proud to be here, to have made a home here, To be at a place for the last 30 years has been at the forefront of trying to ask these questions. How do we be a hall of study? How do we be a hall of prayer? How do we make our homes full of Jewish life and Jewish texture? And I am thrilled that thanks to the contract negotiation committee and our president, I'm here for another 9 years to come. Okay. Thank you. I'm thrilled because it means we are going to continue to be that place of possibility, of personal meaning, of taking our lives and making Judaism a priority. Not just because we have to, but because it is amazing and it is great to do so. So when we at Woodbury Jewish Center are asking our question, why should we exist? The answer is, of course we should exist. Of course we should continue to be the kind of place where we come together and pray. Of course we should be the kind of place where we come together and study. And of course our homes should and could be places of Jewish excitement and passion. Not just for the last 30 years, not just for the next 9 years, but for the 9 years after that and the 9 years after that, Woodbury Jewish Center will be the kind of place where we are proud each and every day to be called a Jew and to make the Jewish people our people. And with that, I say, Shana Tova. We're going to continue now with our Musaf service. We rise on page 246 for Ha'ochez Bayad.